At 3:15 a.m., the pounding on my apartment door wasn't desperate. It was furious. "Open the door," he barked. "This isn't funny." I lay still in bed, staring at the ceiling, my breathing slow and even. No racing heart, no panic. Just a quiet certainty settling into my chest. An hour earlier, I had sent him one message. "Now you're not dating either. Enjoy the streets." That was it. Earlier that night, when I got home from work, he was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting his collar. Button-down shirt I'd never seen before. Cologne he didn't wear for me. His phone kept lighting up on the dresser. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Clubbing," he said casually. "With some girls from work." The way he said it, like it was nothing, like it was obvious, I felt something shift. "Girls?" I asked. Calm, controlled. He shrugged. "Yeah, so what?" Something about his tone made my stomach drop. Not guilt, not hesitation. Confidence. The kind that comes from assuming you won't be challenged. "I thought tonight we were staying in," I said. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Why? We're not married. You can't tell me what to do." The room went quiet. I looked at him then. Really looked. The man who had been living in my apartment. Sleeping in my bed. Letting me cover the rent while he contributed less and less every month. "You're right," I said finally. He smirked. "Exactly. So am I." He grabbed his jacket. "Don't wait up." The door slammed. I sat there for a full 5 minutes afterward, my hands resting in my lap, heart steady. No tears, no spiraling thoughts, just clarity. Then I stood up. I packed everything he owned in my apartment. Shirts, shoes, toiletries, the stupid gym bag he never put away. I photographed every suitcase as I filled it. Timestamps visible, movements deliberate, calm. I changed the locks, cleaned the apartment, removed every trace of him. When he came back hours later, drunk and irritated, his key didn't work. That's when the pounding started. "My key's not working," he snapped. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't open the door. I opened my phone camera and started recording. Then I texted him. "We're not dating anymore. Your belongings are secured in the building storage unit. The key is with night security. Please collect your things and leave." He laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "You can't kick me out," he said. "I live here." I stayed silent. Security arrived minutes later. I heard the guard ask for proof, ask whose name was on the lease. His voice changed, anger, then insults. And while he unraveled in the hallway, I stood barefoot inside my apartment, heart calm, realizing something that felt heavier than satisfaction. This wasn't a fight. This was the end. And I had no idea yet how far he, and the people who would rush to defend him, were about to take this. We had been together for 2 years, and for most of that time, I genuinely believed we were building something solid. We didn't meet in some dramatic way. No sparks in the rain, no instant chemistry people write about online. We met through mutual friends at a low-key get-together. Too much noise, cheap wine, conversations that drifted in and out. He was charming in a relaxed way, confident without trying too hard. The kind of man who made you feel like he was fully present when he talked to you. At first, he was attentive, consistent. He texted when he said he would, showed up on time, asked about my work, remembered details, made me feel chosen. When we started dating seriously, I felt grounded with him, safe, like I didn't have to overthink every move. About 8 months before everything imploded, his living situation fell apart. He told me his roommate situation didn't work out. That was the phrase he used. Casual, vague. I didn't push for details. I figured people fall out, leases end, life happens. He looked stressed when he told me, embarrassed even, and I didn't want to be the kind of girlfriend who interrogated him when he was already down. So when he asked if he could stay with me temporarily, it didn't feel like a big decision. "I just need a little time to get back on my feet," he said. "A few months max." We agreed on something simple. He'd contribute $400 a month toward utilities and groceries while he sorted things out. I covered the rent, $2,100 a month, because I could. I had a stable job, a good salary, and at the time, it felt like partnership meant stepping up when someone you love is struggling. He worked as a part-time retail manager, bringing in around $100 to $800 a month. Not great, but not nothing. I told myself this was temporary. That ambition doesn't always show up on a schedule. That support is what couples do. The first month, he paid the $400. The second month, it dropped to $200. The third month, it became, "I'll get you next week." Next week turned into next month. Next month turned into silence unless I asked. And when I did ask, he'd sigh, get defensive, accuse me of stressing him out. "Why are you making such a big deal out of money?" he'd say. You know I'm trying. So I stopped asking. I told myself love wasn't transactional, that if I could help someone I cared about, I should. I cooked. I cleaned. I covered groceries. I covered utilities. I ignored the fact that my apartment slowly stopped feeling like mine. And looking back now, I see how subtly the balance shifted. He didn't thank me anymore, didn't acknowledge the support. It became expected, normal, invisible. Meanwhile, he started going out more, staying out later, spending money on drinks, clothes, nights I wasn't invited to. When I asked about his day, his answers got shorter. When I asked where he was going, he'd roll his eyes. "You're reading into things," he'd say. "You're being controlling. Why can't you just trust me?" So I did, because I wanted to believe we had a future, that this was just a rough patch, that patience would eventually be rewarded. I didn't realize then that what I was calling love was slowly turning into tolerance. And tolerance, when left unchecked, becomes permission. The first red flag wasn't dramatic. It didn't come with yelling or betrayal or some explosive argument people warn you about. It came quietly, wrapped in small moments I brushed off because they didn't feel serious enough to confront. It started with his phone. He used to leave it face up on the table, notifications lighting up casually, no tension, no secrecy. Then, slowly, without explanation, it flipped face down. Always. Even when he wasn't using it. Even when we were alone. If it buzzed, he'd check it instantly, thumb moving fast, shoulders turning slightly away from me. Not hiding exactly, just shielding. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I told myself noticing didn't mean accusing. One night I asked lightly, "Who are you texting so much?" He didn't even look up. Work stuff. At 10 at night, on a Friday. Another time I mentioned that he'd been out late 3 nights in a row. "So," he snapped, "I'm allowed to have a life." The edge in his voice surprised me more than the words. I started feeling like I had to rehearse my questions before asking them. Tone check myself. Make sure I sounded calm enough, reasonable enough, not like the kind of woman he'd accuse of being insecure. And that accusation came fast whenever I slipped. "You're reading into things. You always assume the worst. I can't breathe with you watching me like this." Watching him, that's what he called paying attention. The money issue quietly worsened too. I'd stopped expecting the $400 altogether. But what stung wasn't the money. It was how freely he spent on everything else. New shirts, drinks with coworkers, Ubers home at 2 a.m. One night, I opened the fridge and realized I'd been the only one grocery shopping for weeks. "Hey," I said, trying to keep it casual, "can you grab groceries next time you're out?" He sighed like I'd asked for something unreasonable. "I'll get to it." He didn't. Then came the subtle boundary pushes. He'd go out without telling me, not lying, just omitting. I'd find out later when he casually mentioned it like it was nothing. "Oh yeah, I went out after work." "With who?" "People." "Women?" His jaw would tighten. Why does that matter? It mattered because the tone had changed, because the transparency was gone, because something in our dynamic had shifted from us to me versus you. The worst part was how he started reframing everything. If I felt uneasy, it was because I was insecure. If I asked questions, I was controlling. If I wanted basic respect, I was doing too much. He never raised his voice. He didn't need to. He used calm dismissal instead. An eyebrow lift, a smirk, a sigh that said you're embarrassing yourself. And slowly, without realizing it, I began shrinking. I stopped asking where he was going. Stopped questioning why he came home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. Stopped pointing out how little he contributed compared to how much space he took up. I told myself relationships weren't perfect, that love meant compromise, that if I just stayed patient, he'd find his footing again. But beneath all that rationalizing, something darker was taking root, a quiet fear that I was being tested, not for trust, but for tolerance. And he was learning exactly how much disrespect I would absorb before pushing back. That night didn't feel like it was going to change my life. It started normal, almost boring. I got home from work around 6 o'clock p.m., dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes. The apartment smelled faintly like his cologne, stronger than usual. Music was playing from the bedroom. He was standing in front of the mirror, getting ready. And that's when I noticed the outfit. A fitted shirt I'd never seen before. Dark jeans, clean shoes, everything intentional, not thrown together, not casual. He looked prepared. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Yeah," he said without turning around. "Clubbing." I paused. "Tonight?" "With some people from work." I leaned against the doorway. "Want me to come?" He laughed, not cruelly, but dismissively. It's not really your scene. We're just going to dance and have drinks. Something in my chest tightened, but I didn't push. I told myself I was overthinking, that couples don't have to do everything together. Around 8 p.m., he went into the bathroom to shower. That's when his phone started buzzing on the couch, over and over. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear I wasn't. The screen kept lighting up right in my line of sight. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that black shirt I like. Save me a dance. Different names, different women. 3 notifications, all flirtatious, all unmistakable. My stomach dropped, not in shock, but in recognition, like something I'd already suspected had finally stepped into the light. When he came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, I kept my voice steady. Who all's going tonight? He shrugged. Just coworkers. Why are women texting you like that? The shift in his face was instant. Defensive turned aggressive in seconds. Oh my God, he snapped. Are you seriously checking my phone? I didn't check anything, I said calmly. It was lighting up on the couch. That's such a violation, he shot back. You have serious trust issues. I'm not insecure, I said. I just think it's disrespectful. To what? He scoffed. To have female friends? To go out and have fun? We're not married, he said flatly. You can't tell me what to do. The room went quiet. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt something settle inside me. You're right, I said. He smirked. Exactly. So am I. He grabbed his jacket, still irritated. I'll be back whenever I feel like it. Don't wait up. The door slammed. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes, just processing, letting the adrenaline drain, letting the truth land. Then I stood up. I went to the bedroom and pulled out every suitcase I owned. 4 of them. I packed everything of his. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, chargers, the stupid gym bag. I took photos as I packed. Timestamps visible, calm, methodical. I carried the bags down to the building's basement storage unit and locked them inside my assigned space. Management knows me. I've lived there for years, always paid rent early. I came back upstairs and changed the locks, installed the keypad deadbolt I'd been meaning to install anyway. 40 minutes. Simple. I removed every trace of him from the apartment. His face wash, his snacks, his charger by the bed. I photographed the clean apartment. 11:43 p.m. Then I went to bed. Phone on silent, except for one contact, a friend who works in legal, just in case. At 3:15 a.m., the pounding started. Babe, open the door. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera app, and recorded audio. My key isn't working, he snapped. Hello? Are you seriously asleep? I texted him. We're not dating anymore. Your belongings are in the building basement storage unit. I'll leave the key with the night security guard. Please collect your things and leave. The pounding got louder. You can't do this. I texted again. You were correct earlier. We're not married. I can't tell you what to do, and you can't tell me who lives in my apartment. I called building security. By 4:30 a.m., his friend had shown up, his things were gone, and the hallway was quiet. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat there realizing that one sentence, we're not married, had changed everything. The silence after he left was louder than the shouting had been. I sat on the edge of my bed as the sky slowly lightened outside the window, my phone still in my hand, screen dark. No more pounding. No voices in the hallway. Just the hum of the building waking up for the day. I kept replaying the night in my head, not with regret, but with disbelief at how cleanly everything had snapped into place. By morning, the messages started, one after another, vibration after vibration. I didn't open them at first. I already knew the pattern. When I finally looked, there were over 30 texts. The emotional whiplash was immediate. I can't believe you did this. I'm sorry, baby, please. You're actually insane. I love you. We can fix this. Anger, apology, insults, love, repeat. I didn't respond. I blocked his number. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. A few hours later, my phone rang again, an unfamiliar number. I answered. Hello? How dare you throw my son out on the street at 3 a.m? His mother's voice was sharp, already shaking with fury. What kind of woman does that? I stayed calm. The kind whose boyfriend told her she had no say in his life and went clubbing with other women all night. He was just having fun, she snapped. You embarrassed him. He had nowhere to go. He went clubbing until 3 a.m, I said evenly. He had somewhere to go before that. She started crying, talking over herself about how devastated he was, how he didn't mean it, how he was young and needed freedom. He's 27, I said. Not 17. He made his choice. I made mine. I hung up. Blocked that number too. By Saturday afternoon, a friend of mine, who works as a paralegal, called. You might want to hear this, he said. Your ex is telling people you violently threw him out and destroyed his property. My stomach tightened, but only briefly. I sent him everything. Photos, timestamps, messages, security footage requests. He laughed. You're covered. Don't engage. He's trying to control the narrative. Sunday morning, 2 police officers knocked on my door. My heart dropped anyway. Ma'am, one of them said, we received a report that you forcibly evicted your boyfriend and damaged his belongings. I stayed calm, showed them my lease, only my name, showed them the photos of me packing his things carefully, showed them the messages, explained that he'd told me we weren't married and that I had no authority over him. The older officer nodded slowly. Did you give him 30 days' notice? He asked. He wasn't a tenant, I said. He never paid rent. He never signed anything. They exchanged a look. The younger officer tried not to smirk. It's a gray area, the older one said finally, but we're not arresting you. They left. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. Friday, he escalated again. This time, he showed up at my workplace. I work in a relaxed office. Open floor plan, minimal security, people who mind their business. I was mid-email when a coworker leaned over my desk. There's a guy here asking for you. He looks angry. I looked up and saw him standing near reception, jaw tight, shoulders squared, arms crossed like he was bracing for a fight. Several coworkers were already watching. I stood and walked over. You need to leave, I said quietly. I just need 5 minutes, he said through clenched teeth. You owe me that. No, I replied. Leave or I'll call security. His voice rose immediately. Everyone here should know what kind of person you are, he said loudly. My boss stepped out of his office. What's going on? Before I could respond, my ex snapped toward him. She locked me out of my home at 3 a.m, he said sharply. No warning, no notice, took everything. I kept my voice steady. He's my ex-boyfriend, I said. He's not on my lease. He told me I had no say in his life and went out with other women. I took him at his word. My boss didn't hesitate. This is a workplace, he said firmly. You need to leave immediately. My ex scoffed, eyes hard, pride wounded. This isn't over, he muttered as security approached. You're going to regret this. He left under escort, angry, humiliated, but very much in control of himself. That evening, I received an email titled Notice of Legal Action. The sender? A Gmail address. It claimed I was being sued for unlawful eviction, emotional distress, and theft of property, $15,000. I forwarded it to my legal friend. He replied almost instantly, Fake. No legitimate law office uses Gmail. Ignore it. Saturday passed quietly. Too quietly. Sunday morning at 6:00 a.m., the building fire alarm went off. No fire, false alarm. Security footage later showed a man matching my ex's description, slipping in behind another resident, going to my floor, pulling the alarm, and leaving. The building manager was furious. This is a criminal offense, he said. We're filing a police report. I gave them his information. Sunday afternoon, my landlord's attorney called. We received a complaint that you illegally evicted a tenant. I explained everything. Sent every document, every timestamp, every message. Monday morning, the call came back. You're fine, the attorney said. He has no case. We're issuing a cease and desist for harassment and false reports. I should have felt safe. Instead, I felt tired. Because men who lose control quietly don't stop. They look for new ways to regain it. The cease and desist letter should have ended everything. On paper, it did. For a few days after the building's attorney sent it, the noise stopped. No texts, no surprise numbers, no third parties reaching out on his behalf. The quiet felt unnatural, like the pause before something breaks. I wanted to believe it was over. Instead, that silence became the darkest part of all of it. Because in the absence of chaos, the doubt crept in. I started replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, every compromise I'd made, every excuse I'd given him. I wondered if I'd moved too fast, if I'd been too harsh, if agreeing with him that night had been less about strength and more about anger. Then week 2 hit. A cousin called me late one evening, his voice tight. Hey, are you okay? I'm fine, I said. Why? Someone messaged me from your account saying you were having a breakdown, that you were suicidal. My stomach dropped. I asked him to send me screenshots. It wasn't my account. It was a fake profile, my name, my photos, my writing style. Close enough to fool people who didn't look too closely. I reported it immediately. It was taken down within 24 hours. But the damage was already done. Friends started checking in. Carefully, cautiously, like they weren't sure what they'd find if I answered. I hated that. Hated the way he'd reached into my life and smeared doubt where trust used to be. Then my mother called. Not worried, angry. That man contacted me, she said, crying about how you ruined his life. I closed my eyes. He told me you were manipulative, she continued, that you took advantage of him financially. My hands tightened around the phone. What did you say? I asked. I told him maybe he should have thought about that before disrespecting my daughter, she said. Then I hung up. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. But he wasn't done. By the third week, word got back to me that he'd run out of money. The friend he'd been staying with wanted him out. He had nowhere to go but back to his parents. That's when his mother called again, from another number. This is all your fault, she said immediately. He can't afford an apartment now because you stole his savings. What savings? I asked. He didn't pay rent. I have bank records. He gave you money every month. He gave me less than $1,000 total over 8 months, I said. That covered groceries and utilities. That's not rent. She lost it. Accused me of being abusive, manipulative, heartless, said I'd ruined her son's life. I hung up. Blocked the number. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, city noise drifting through the windows. For the first time since it all began, I felt the weight of it crash down on me. Not fear, exhaustion. I wasn't questioning whether I'd been right anymore. I knew I had. What hurt was realizing how easily someone could twist the story when they refused to accept consequences. How quickly love turned into accusation the moment I stopped enabling him. That was my dark moment. Not regret, but grief. For the version of him I thought existed, and the version of myself that had tolerated less than I deserved. The turning point didn't come with a confrontation. It came with proof. Late Monday evening, my phone buzzed with a message request from someone I didn't recognize. A man's name, profile photo blurred, no mutual friends. I almost ignored it. Curiosity won. Hey, I feel like you should know something. My chest tightened as I opened the message. I was one of the guys your boyfriend was supposed to meet at the club that night. He told all of us he was single. I stared at the screen, my pulse steady but heavy. He continued. Me and 2 other guys were planning to hook up with him that night. When we realized he was lying to all of us, we bailed. He tried to get us to stay, but we left. He went home alone. There it was. Not suspicion, not interpretation, not insecurity. Confirmation. I read the message twice, then a third time, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger, not vindication, but clarity so sharp it almost hurt. I replied once. Thanks for telling me. Then I blocked him. That was the moment I stopped wondering if I'd overreacted. Every escalation suddenly made sense. The fake eviction notice, the workplace stunt, the legal threats, the fire alarm. They weren't about heartbreak. They were about control slipping through his fingers. Later that night, a mutual friend sent me screenshots. My ex had posted a long rant online about his toxic ex, who financially abused him and threw him out with nowhere to go. He painted himself as a victim, used words like traumatized, betrayed, discarded. But the comments didn't go the way he expected. People who actually knew us pushed back. Didn't you tell everyone you were single? You literally said you were using her until something better came along. Weren't you trying to hook up with multiple people the same night? Then the club guys showed up in the comments. One of them wrote, "You told me you were single and tried to hook up with me and my friends that night. Maybe take some accountability." I watched the post disappear less than an hour later. Screenshots don't. That was the shift. For weeks, I'd been defending myself quietly, privately, through documentation and legal channels. But now, without me saying a word, the truth was surfacing on its own. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. Because once the narrative collapsed, there was nothing left for him to weaponize. No sympathy to harvest, no leverage to pull, no illusion to hide behind. He wasn't losing me. He was losing the story he'd been telling himself, that he could do whatever he wanted and still come home to stability. And that realization marked the end of his power over my life. Once the truth surfaced, the collapse was fast. Not loud, not cinematic, just irreversible. The cease and desist letter did exactly what it was supposed to do. For about a week, everything went quiet. No messages, no surprise numbers, no third parties reaching out on his behalf. The building felt peaceful again. I started sleeping through the night without waking up to phantom knocks or buzzing phones. I thought maybe that was it. Then week 2 happened. A friend called me, sounding confused. "Hey, did you message me saying you were having a breakdown?" I felt that familiar drop in my stomach. Another fake account, this time pretending to be me again, messaging friends and family, claiming I was unstable, suicidal, needed help. I reported it immediately. The platform took it down within a day, just like the last one. But by then, the damage was done. People reached out carefully, unsure whether they were checking in on me or walking into a crisis. I hated the way it made me feel exposed, like my life was being hijacked by someone who refused to let go. Then he tried my mother. A few hours later, she called me, irritated. "He contacted me," she said flatly. "Told me you destroyed him. Said you ruined his life." I already knew how that conversation went. "I told him he should have thought about that before disrespecting you," she added. Then I hung up. I smiled for the first time in days. By the end of that week, word got around that he'd run out of options. The friend he'd been crashing with wanted him out. He couldn't afford a deposit, couldn't qualify for a lease. He had no choice but to move back in with his parents. That's when his mother called again, from another number. "She can't afford an apartment now because you stole his savings," she said, barely pausing to breathe. "What savings?" I asked calmly. "He never paid rent. I have bank records." "He gave you money every month." "He gave me less than $1,000 total over 8 months," I said. "That covered groceries and utilities. That's not rent." She spiraled. Accusations, insults, claims of abuse. I hung up. Blocked the number. Again. The final blow didn't come from him or his family. It came from social media. A mutual friend sent me screenshots late one night. He'd posted another long rant. Same victim narrative, same rewritten history. This time, people weren't having it. Comment after comment called him out. "Didn't you tell everyone you were single? You literally admitted you were using her. Multiple people confirmed you tried to hook up with them that same night. Even the women from the club chimed in. One wrote, 'You told me you were single and tried to hook up with me and my friends. Accountability matters.'" The post vanished within an hour. The screenshots didn't. By the time the dust settled, the story he'd been telling everyone no longer held. The sympathy dried up. The support faded. The narrative collapsed under its own weight. I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. Because fallout doesn't always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like being left alone with the consequences of your own choices. 3 weeks later, it finally stopped feeling like a battle. The cease and desist letter did what it was meant to do. After the second fake account was taken down and the last number was blocked, the noise faded into nothing. No more threats. No more surprise messages. No more attempts to rewrite reality. Just quiet. Real quiet. My apartment felt different without him. Not emptier, but lighter. The air didn't feel tense anymore. The fridge stayed full. The bills went down. I stopped bracing myself every time my phone buzzed. I slept. I went back to routines I'd abandoned without noticing. Cooking meals I actually liked. Going to the gym. Not to prove anything, just to move again. Sitting on my couch in the evenings without someone sulking in the background or disappearing without explanation. Through mutual friends, I heard how things ended for him. He was back in his parents' basement. Same retail job, same excuses. According to social media, he was focusing on healing and learning to love himself. Translation, no one was buying his victim story anymore. Apparently, he'd tried dating. It didn't go well. Word had gotten around. When multiple women from the same social circle confirm you tried to play them all at once, people take note. He kept getting ghosted. The charm wore off quickly when accountability was required. The last message I ever received from him came from yet another number. "I hope you're happy. You ruined my life over one mistake." I replied once. "You told me I had no say in your life. I listened. Actions have consequences. Good luck." Then I blocked that number too. And that was it. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere. The unpaid months, the defensiveness, the way he accused me of being controlling for asking basic questions. I ignored them because I thought love meant patience, understanding, endurance. But there's a difference between being patient and being a doormat. He thought he could keep me as the stable foundation, paying the bills, providing security, while he did whatever he wanted on the side. The moment I took him at his word, his entire world unraveled. That wasn't cruelty. That was reality. Some people think standing up for yourself makes you the villain. Those people can stay stuck in their own chaos. Me, I'm good. My apartment is quiet. My boundaries are intact. My peace of mind is priceless. To everyone who reached out with support, thank you. And to anyone watching this who's been told you're overreacting for expecting basic respect, you're not. You're just done tolerating less than you deserve. If this story resonated with you, feel free to share your thoughts, your experiences, or your lessons in the comments. And if you want more stories like this about boundaries, consequences, and choosing yourself, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sometimes the strongest move isn't fighting harder. It's walking away and locking the door behind you.